Hello, hello. First time going live. And usually I wouldn't do this because there's always like I mess up a lot on camera. But you see the title, and sorry, I know there's been a couple channels talking about it. Usually I'm not really outspoken too much on either side because I like to kind of remain pretty neutral. However, I will call BS when I see BS. That's always been me. That's always going to be me, regardless of what side you're on, regardless of what you stand for. If it's BS, it's BS. There's no other way to put it, right? Um, Now, I'll also say this: what I might say may offend some people that I know. Um, Potentially people that are close to me, potentially people that are quote unquote friends, right? Um, and if they stop talking to me, great, because then that just means you weren't really a friend, right? Um, at least not someone I could count on for the most part. Um, so, topic at hand. You see the title. I mean, I'll say it. Free Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate, right? Um, you may not like him. You may be bored of him. Like I know a lot of people were kind of on uh, social media talking about how they're so tired of him because they were seeing him everywhere. Well, mind you, this guy's like a genius when it comes to social media because he just blew up out of nowhere. I followed the guy for like a couple of years now, honestly. Was there stuff that sometimes I may potentially didn't agree with? Yes. However, if you're a little smart, you kind of use your brain a little bit, you'll notice that a lot of what he says, like persona he gives off, is exactly that. It's a persona. It's the same thing like when you're acting, you kind of have a persona, right? It's like a celebrity. You have this persona. And I find a lot of people who are like offended by people like him and others, and often like myself, like, because of what I say sometimes. Um, they're offended because it's like how he said it as opposed to what he said. And I'm sorry to say it, that's completely BS. So many people who are so outspoken about canceling people, this whole like cancel culture, like it's like a sport to try to cancel people. And if you are able to, like, you kind of celebrate it as if you won something, as if you've accomplished something with your life because you were able to get somebody off, deplatform for whatever reason. Now, some people say, well, he has like these misogynistic views, or he like hates women, he hates this, or da da da, he stands for yada, whatever. I don't think that's true. I think that if you really take the information and extrapolate and take the entire context instead of watching small clips of stuff and then making your generalization off of that, that's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with making a generalization about anybody or about a group of people, whatever it is. But it's when you take it completely out of context, you're not getting the full picture. So for you to paint a complete, like to assume somebody's stance solely based on like a couple seconds of content that you've seen, it seems completely ridiculous to me. Now, for some of you that may not know who Andrew Tate is, um, I'll go and I'll try to show you a couple clips that I think kind of demonstrate, right? And I want you to, I know this is live, but I want you, if you want, you can pause it, you can go back and watch it, but I want you to really think about what he's saying. Like, put your feelings aside, put your emotions aside, and think about what is being said, right? So let me try that for you guys real quick. We'll watch something. There was a couple videos, but I think
If
this
you're
one was pretty
depressed,
good.
you're living inside of your mind, you're obsessed with how you feel, you don't care about anything outside of yourself, and you're an exceptionally selfish person. That's all they're trying to do is convince you and teach you to be extremely selfish. Let me tell you something.
And I want you to, like I said, listen to this, and yeah, this way you can also gauge the type of person that he is, right? He's not someone who's gonna come to you and be like, "Oh, it's okay," and try to caress you and tell you everything's fine. And no, because honestly, like even for me, that does nothing for me. I'd rather you tell me. Like if you have a problem and you come crying or you come whatever. To me, that's fine. You can have those moments, but don't come to me if you don't want a solution, because it's frustrating, and especially as a man. Like, you can't be down on something and not expect to talk to a man about it and not come up with a solution. Like, if you just want somebody to kind of hold your hand and be like, tell you it's okay, whatever, I don't know, go talk to your mom or something. I don't know. But again, just listen to what he has to say, and then you can judge up, kind of based off what you see. I'll extrapolate on some of
Feeling
that.
depressed is real. So you can feel depressed.
Right.
But you feel depressed, and that is a natural biological evolutionary trigger for you to change something in your life. That's your own mind telling you you're unhappy about X. If I went to jail today, I'd be depressed because I'm in jail.
Same.
I
Absolutely.
haven't caught
Absolutely.
depression. I don't have a disease. I'm just upset with my situation.
Now, I know some people came after him because of this, like saying his depression stuff, saying that it wasn't real. Some people are like, oh, he believes it's not real, and I've had, like, I'll be very open with you, some of you guys. I've had moments like this. I wouldn't call it someone who has depression, but you have moments like this where you do feel like down on your luck. You've had a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, a bad year, like whatever it is. We've all had those things, right? And it's okay to go through that cycle of emotions and feelings. But what's important is not to stay there, right? Not to let that consume you, not to let that define you. Because when you do, I'll be the first to say it, you're weak, right? Like I've said before in another video, feelings are not emotions. Emotions are not feelings. Emotions are usually something that you'll feel in the first 2-3 seconds of something occurring in your life. After that, everything you feel after that is a conscious decision that you're making to continue to feel that thing. So feelings are are determined more or less by yourself, whether you want to admit that to yourself or not, right? Um, so again, understand what is he saying.
I have people mess with me all the time. I'm fat and I can't get a girlfriend because I'm depressed. I'm like, no, pancake lover. You're depressed because you're fat and you can't get a girlfriend. Do you understand? Yeah. No matter what the worst thing that could possibly happen to me on earth, I will feel sad, but I will recover and I will not become depressed because I don't believe in depression. If you're in an old haunted house,
again, I think one of the things that helped me, and maybe as a recommendation for you guys, maybe some piece of advice, understanding that bit, what he just said, is crucial, because when you have people who enable, like you tell somebody, right? Let's say you're sad, you're depressed, and people will reaffirm that for you and tell you, oh yeah, depression's a real thing, this and that, and you're sick. You will believe it, right? But when you align yourself with people who tell you, like, okay, you're feeling some type of way, right? Do you want a solution, or you want to just sit there and mope about it? It's all about who you surround yourself with, right? If you create an echo chamber for yourself of people who are just going to enable that behavior, this could be with any behavior for that matter.
Haunted house, right? You have two people in two haunted houses. One believes in ghosts and one doesn't. You hear some noise in the night. The wind blows, right? The man who believes in ghosts is like, oh no, a ghost. Now he's scared, right? He wants an exorcist. He can't sleep. He's scared about ghosts. He's paranoid. The guy who doesn't believe in ghosts goes wind, whatever, and goes back to sleep. Do you understand that it's the belief that gives it power?
Right.
If you don't believe in ghosts, the ghosts can't hurt you. If you don't believe in depression, you can't become depressed. And I refuse to believe that 100%. That's going to weaken me.
100%.
Why would I believe in something that's going to weaken my ability to deal with problems in life? Why would I do that?
And this is one of the reasons that people dislike him so much, is because of his delivery. People say, oh, he seems so upset. Like, he seems so this and that. He's like yelling at me. And that's because people are soft. Like, completely soft. You go on social media, like, I have people around me that are just soft. And honestly, I try to stay away from them. I really do. I try to avoid them at all costs because they're soft. I can't. I personally can't stand for it.
I'm temporarily immortal.
But that's why people
Do you understand?
people don't like him.
Do you understand? I'm temporarily immortal, and I'm not going to waste my living years believing in things which take power from me. Because I'm not an idiot.
Right.
Real men cry, and if women can cry, men can cry too. There's nothing wrong with it. And there absolutely is something wrong with it, and I'll explain to you why. Life as a man is far more difficult than life as a woman.
And before you saying this is like toxic masculinity, there's no such thing. Let's get that out of the way before you even go any further. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. There's nothing wrong with crying. If you're a guy, there's nothing wrong with crying, but you don't go cry to your girl. You don't go cry to girls for attention as if that's going to give you some way in. I'm a strong believer that people's tears are only real when they're alone. I believe that 100%. 100%. And we'll let him elaborate on that.
One of the key components of manhood always has been and always will be, we have the ability to control ourselves and not act emotionally. Females are more emotionally driven, more emotionally impulsive than a good man should be. Saying that I felt like crying so I cried, this makes me a real man, is as stupid as me saying, well, I felt like smashing his face in, so I smashed his face in.
Right.
This makes me a real man. No.
It's like Jordan Peterson said, right? A weak man, an emotional man, is not a good man, right? An emotional man and a weak man cannot control his emotions and his impulses. So they lash out. You know all those atrocities committed at schools and in society at large, often perpetrated by those men. Those men are weak, emotional men. That is what you get. Mind you, is it the extreme? Absolutely. But that is what you get when you go as a man unchecked with your emotions. When you're not stoic. When you can't rationalize what's going on around you. And that's important. So when people say it's okay to be emotional, no, it's not. Not as a man. Because an emotional man wreaks havoc. Right? It goes back to that old quote. Strong men create good times. Good times creates weak men. Weak men create hard times. And hard times create weak men. Strong men, sorry. So, me personally, I do think that we live in that cycle right now where we have good times and it's created weak men. Weak, emotional, feeble-minded men.
The hallmark of a real man is controlling himself, controlling his emotions, and acting appropriately regardless of how he feels. And throughout human history, this is exactly how men
Absolutely.
had to live their lives. Do you think that the teenagers storming the beaches of Normandy felt like crying? Of course they did. But they also knew that that wasn't the correct thing for them to do. They had a duty to commit to, they had honor, and they did what they were supposed to do regardless of how they felt. That is the mark of a man. Weakness and absolute submission to your feelings are not the hallmarks of men.
Absolutely.
It's not the way
Absolutely.
society has ever been built. It's never been built off the backs of men who were crying their eyes out because they felt like crying. The only kind of men who advocate crying are the kind of men who do not have enough self-control to prevent themselves from crying. Because we're all human. There's times in your life, as a man, you're going to feel like crying.
Right.
It's going to happen. But what you're supposed to do is not cry. Because this is a test in mental fortitude. And there is no physical fortitude, there's no financial fortitude, there's no other type of fortitude without mental fortitude. So when you feel like crying, you ensure you do not cry. And you act appropriately as a man should. The men who say no, succumb instantly to your emotions, are the kind of people who have no self-control. And let me tell you something about men who have no self-control. Men who live without self-control are the kind of men who cry when their girlfriend cheats on them, because she certainly does, because she doesn't respect the little crybaby, and she's
100%.
only with you because she's ugly as fuck, and she has to settle for a little soy boy pussy like you. And these guys sitting there, what they're
Agreed.
trying to do by telling you to cry
Agreed.
is drag you down to their level. They look at people like me, and I say, Ross,
Now, I want you to really think about something. Watching some of this. I don't think he's saying anything controversial. Now, mind you, does he have takes like about certain things like on women? Like, there's this guy, right? Like, one of the biggest reasons I would say that he started to really be put be used as a target was certain influencers who are, I would say, more woke, left leaning libs, right? Extreme libs, um, who they themselves spew this thing about like being inclusive and accepting people and not judging and not generalizing and respect me, respect that, da, 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 whatever. But as soon as you get anything that doesn't align with their worldviews or what it is, like the toxicity that they spew, they'll call you names, right? They'll generalize. They'll call you words and whatever, like be the most uninclusive people ever. And again, like that to me doesn't make any sense. So I'll kind of leave this for now. Um, but I'll say it, like the reason again I wanted to even do this was because I think it's generally important. Some people may say, "Oh, that's a little extreme," but I'll tell you right now, they're being masculine now, like in this day and age, in this year, is so frowned upon, right? It's become so rare, and you're demonized for wanting to be your natural self as a guy, to be masculine, and even as a woman, like if you want to be a feminine woman, right? If you have any type of traditional or conventional values for that matter, they will demonize you and see you as weak, right? From a woman's perspective, like if you try to be feminine and fall into your feminine role, you're considered weak. And if you're a guy who is trying to be masculine in any sense, they'll call you toxic. What do they want is they want the feminization of men and the masculinization of women. As if, and this is where I'm kind of dumbfounded. So they say that if you're as a woman, if you're feminine, it's bad. As a guy, they said if you're masculine, it's bad. Yet they will turn around and tell women to be more masculine because that's what's good. And as a man, they'll tell you to be more feminine because that's what's good. It's kind of like telling you suppress who you really are so that you can acquiesce to us, who by every statistic is just a small, minute sample size of society as a whole. So why the hell are we having to acquiesce to that? Why? Right? Because somebody's had their feelings hurt? I don't care. Like, boo-hoo. Boo-hoo. But again, getting back on topic, I've gotten a lot of I'm sure some of you guys know. You guys see my Instagram handle up there. And I don't really post on it that much. Not anymore. Why? Because it was continuously getting shadow banned, stuff deleted, account was locked from Instagram because apparently I was out of their community guidelines over some stuff that I said. One of them was for example, when we had Nancy Pelosi's husband who got arrested or charged with the DUI, I posted it on there. I posted on my social media that he had been pulled over and arrested for DUI, that there was charges for a DUI, right? A week later, I get a message on Instagram from Instagram and their guidelines saying that my account would be reduced in its reach for 90 days because I was promoting false information. And I was like, what? Like, that can't be true. Now, mind you, like weeks later, now we know that it wasn't false information. This dude, there was charges for a DUI. And so that's enough to get banned, right? What he's saying and trying to help men, that's enough to get you banned. But we can go on social media. We can go on Instagram. We can go on Facebook. We can go on TikTok. We can go on YouTube. We can go on everything. And you will see podcasts such as Kill All Men. You see TikTokers with millions of views talking about men ain't ish. Right? You can go on Facebook and see groups, feminist groups, targeting men. Right? Groups talking about abortions. Right? And that's okay. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Ending a life. Absolutely. Demasculizing men. Absolutely. That's fine. Talking smack about men, calling them bambling idiots, calling me and others like incels, whatever the case is. That's fine. That's not against community guidelines. That's not hate speech. That's none of that. But if, as a guy, you go on there and you say anything negative about any other group that isn't men, they'll ostracize you. They'll demonize you. You will be the scapegoat for everything that's wrong. And I truly, truly believe that one of the biggest reasons for it is because you're more easily controlled as a society when you destroy from the inside out. When you destroy the hearts of the fighting warriors of that nation, which is exactly what's going on. I'm not trying to get into like some conspiracy theory, but history, like if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it. You can look all through history. What's the one thing they do first? Is they try to kill off or destroy fighting age males. Like, that's the first thing to go, which is exactly what's going on now. And you may not want to see it. It's like the fact that you can't talk about it is frightening. It's scary. It should scare you. I've heard people say, well, just because you have freedom of speech doesn't mean that you have freedom of social media or to use social media to have any type of discourse about certain ideals. And I agree. These are private companies. They have guidelines. But be fair. Some people say, well, life isn't fair. Absolutely not. But don't say you don't have an agenda when it's very clear that if you come on here and say anything negative about any other group, you will be demonized, like I said. But if you talk bad about men and call men toxic for following their masculine roles, like that that tells me that there is an agenda. It's very frustrating. Very frustrating because even sometimes, like I've had people who I'll say something, sometimes controversial or not, because apparently now telling the truth and speaking facts is controversial. And I've told people, okay, that's fine. You have an opposing viewpoint, challenge me. Let's have a conversation. Let's have some discourse over it, right? Let's try to understand each other. Let's try to come to some sort of like agreement, disagreement, conclusion, solution, whatever the case is. Right? And people who try to cancel you, I'll tell them I'm open to having that conversation. But what do they do? What do they say? And the one thing I always hear from everybody who disagrees with anything is the same thing. It's, oh, well, I'm not confrontational. Like, I know what your views are. We're not going to get anywhere. It's not going to accomplish anything and yada, yada, yada. They try to avoid the conversation, the discourse, the arguments, because a few reasons. One, they're weak. I'll say it. You're weak. If you run away, if you have a belief that you genuinely like feel strongly about, that you genuinely believe, you should be able to stand on it and defend your viewpoint, right? The other thing is, people often don't do it because they know that their viewpoint is completely flawed, and there's nothing to really substantiate what it is they believe. Because I'll tell you right now, a wide acceptance of an idea is absolutely no proof of its validity, right? And what does that mean? That means that you believe something just because a whole bunch of people believe it doesn't make it true. I've tried to have people have conversation with, like have them on here, have a conversation, have a debate, and they simply won't, because again, it's the same excuses every time. And I'm here to tell you right now, if this is you watching and you don't agree with something, not just with me, but with anybody else, stop saying, yo, your view this, your view that, it's flawed, blah, blah, blah. If you're not willing to get in there and defend your own viewpoint. Because that's what people will do. If you present an argument, they won't agree with it. But instead of attacking the argument and saying this is where your argument is flawed, this is where your thinking is flawed, what they'll do is they'll demonize you, they'll call you names. They'll attack you as a person, as if that somehow hurts the argument, the reality of things. People are so focused about, oh, my truth and this and that, that's your opinion. No. I'm not going to speak on anything I know nothing about. That's me, that's just me. That's who I am. I've always been that way. If I hold an opinion about something, it's because I've done my own research. I've done, the due diligence, the work to really be knowledgeable on the topic and see the facts, the evidence, the statistics, the empirical data, to have a strong foundation on which I can stand on. But a lot of people make their opinions and their arguments solely based on their emotions and their feelings. There is no rationality behind any of it. They hear something, they don't like it, and just because it makes them feel some type of way, they feel strongly behind it. And that's not a strong man. Like, that's not a strong person, whether you're a man or not. So going back to Andrew Tate, are there things that I don't agree with? Absolutely. Maybe like 5% of what he says. I'm being honest. You can take that and do with it as you may. But I believe in it. I stand by it. And this man should not be the scapegoat for you trying to aim all that hatred that the left has, that the inclusive people have. That he shouldn't be your scapegoat and saying feeling like you've accomplished something. Because whether you like it or not, and I'll tell you right now, those people who are extreme left are absolutely hurting everything about society. Right? And people say, well, like what? Like, how can it, they're trying to include, no, they're not. Right? Because they'll be the first to demonize you. I had one who was saying, oh, if you probably think this because you're gay. I'm like, wait, hold on. Is that a bad thing? Because according to you, it's not. So why would you call me that? Or they'll say, oh, well, maybe you're trying to make up for something else, this and that. They'll shame you. I've been called an incel. I've been called, I'm like, and I'll tell you right now, not to brag, but I've never had a problem with any of that. Believe me, I don't have a problem with that at all. So, good try. Really, good try. I don't want to go on too long. But I do want to say one thing. I know it's maybe a little cliche. But I'm sure you guys have seen the movie The Matrix, right? Where Morpheus hands or gives Neo the option of the red pill and the blue pill. And he tells him to choose, right? If you choose the blue pill, you will continue to live in a wonderland and believe everything you've been told and be conform to the powers that be. Or I can give you the red pill. You'll know the truth, but you're not going to be comfortable. It's going to be painful, it's going to be difficult. But you'll know the truth. And we know what happened, right? And that's why sometimes in this community that I identify with as well, the red pill community is for men and women. It's very powerful. It's very helpful. I think it gives you the power to make choices for yourself, as opposed to having a society, a community, a country, a government who's telling you how to think, how to speak, the whys and the why nots, like molding you and giving you this false sense of liberty, giving you a false sense of happiness, a false sense of security, and telling you that they know better for you, that you could not be without them, that you need them in order to be able to do something with your life, in order to actually achieve something, to make your life meaningful, to give your life purpose. Right. For all my gentlemen out here watching, I just want to say one thing. Fight the good fight. Because maybe people don't like the words, but we do have a war on masculinity. You see it. I know you see it. I know you see it every day. I know sometimes you question yourself. I know that for a fact. Like, there are times where I'm sure you see something and you're like, that doesn't seem right. There's something off. And to be cliche, you might tell yourself there's a glitch in the matrix. Something is off. We all kind of been there. And I'll also say this. As a guy, if you ever need any help, assistance, you having a hard time, something going on in your life, advice, with anything, feel free to reach out. I'm here for everybody. What I'm not here for is the lies. What I'm not here for is the controlling of thought and speech. Right? What's the quote? If you're willing to give up essential freedom for temporary safety, you deserve neither. I believe that. Okay. Again, gentlemen, women, it is your duty to stand up for something, for yourself. Come up with original thought. Stop regurgitating and spewing what you see on social media and not in the world simply because it sounds nice, because it's going to get you clicks. Be honest with yourself. Stand up for yourself. Make a commitment to be honest with yourself. It's one of the biggest reasons why I even started this channel. It's one of the biggest reasons why I even decided to make this video. Because I'll be honest with you, you see some of my videos, and people say, "Oh, is that what you do?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm trying to get used to the camera." But the reality is that I know that topics like this, people are gonna skew over it. They don't want to listen. Why? Because the matrix is comfortable. Now people are gonna say, "Oh, really? You believe in that nonsense, this conspiracy theory that we live in?" Obviously not like the movie, dummy. But there is a filter in front of you that obviously you're not seeing. I implore you, take the red pill. Take your freedom back. Fight for something you believe in. Stop trying to be, stop continuing to be the thought slave of others. Because when you just blindly follow the thoughts and beliefs of others instead of coming up with original thoughts and following your own course of life, that is what you become. You become a slave to the framework that you've been fed. Okay, and some people say, well, you seem really passionate. I am really passionate, because I wish that somebody would have woke me up a long time ago. Because I'll tell you right now, I am a lot happier, a lot more fulfilled than I ever was. Pandering to people who don't care anything about you. Like, they don't care about you. They don't care about what you think. They don't care about if you stand with it or not. They don't care. And so all you're doing is undressing yourself from who you really are, putting on a costume, pretend to be something you're not, because you think that is what is acceptable, because they're pushing it and literally trying to take you to swallow this forcefully. Like, you don't see that. Like, what's wrong with that? Right? And before people go and say, oh, well, this is like hate speech and this and that, I'll tell you right now, there's a difference between hate speech and speech you hate. You may not like what I have to say. You may not like what Andrew Tate has to say. What people like Sneeko, like people like Fresh and Fit, right? Tim Pool, Rollo Tomasi, Tony Sotomayor, Jay Waller, Sterling Cooper, and so many have to say. You may not like it, but I'll end this with a quote. I don't care about your boos. You can boo me off stage. The reason I don't care about your boos is because I've seen what makes you cheer. Anyways, sorry for that little rant. I had to. But I will stand up for myself. I will stand up for those who are purposely being hunted because you're scared of losing the power that you have. And this small piece of the population who seems to control every possible narrative in society, on social media, on media just in general. Why? Why do we have to acquiesce to them? Why? What are they so scared of? We are men. The only reason a lot of these people get to say what they say is because men like me, men like other people, men like the ones that I know, stand up for your rights to be able to do and say the nonsense that you do. Because you live so comfortably without the threat of any outside forces that are really going to challenge you. Right? You live without that because of people like us. You may hate us, but you need us, like it or not. Anyways, again, I apologize for the rant, but it is something I'm very passionate about, and I will continue to talk about. Okay, and if there's anybody out there who wants to challenge me on anything, who wants to talk about anything, you really believe what it is that you think, you're sure you're just not pandering some idealistic BS, I'm right here. Talk to me. Have a discussion. It's okay to have a disagreement. That's how that's how we understand each other. It's okay to disagree. There's nothing wrong with it. Anyway, it was nice talking to you guys. Have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. And I will see you guys later.